On today's show, we're going to explore the top 10 skills companies are looking for in the age of AI and automation. The job market is evolving fast, and those who adapt will thrive. We will discuss these essential skills and how you can develop them to stay ahead in the future of work. I'm Daniel,
I'm
and
Matheus.
this is the Human AI Experience. So, what we should discuss today is the list of top 10 skills that are expected to be in the highest demand as companies adapt to AI and automation. To remain competitive in the crazy pace the job market is evolving, people will need to focus on learning new skills like continuous learning, being able to adapt more frequently to change, and how to be better at integrating technology in their skill set. And there's a list that was published in the World's Economic Forum, the Future of Jobs report that came out in January this year. And this tries to predict what will be in high demand for the next 5 years, considering the speed things are taking. So let's look into that and then help the audience to prepare for this, to the future of work.
Okay, so the first one, it's analytical thinking. This means the ability to break down complex problems, evaluate data, and make informed decisions. I guess there's no brainer in regards to work with any kind of business, right? So, be able to evaluate data, for example, it's critical and it can automate more processes, and the amount of data will only increase. So we have some tips for you to improve your analytical thinking. And one of the things that we think it's good like is to engage with puzzles, case studies, and like pay a little bit of attention in data analysis. Like so, study a bit how to do it, to look graphics and try to interpret them. And I believe even playing video games or even playing board games could be one of the things that can help you like, in this case. Another solution or another tip that we can give it to you is like take some online courses. And then we have many platforms that you can do like Coursera, Udemy, LinkedIn Learning, and then you can focus in many different subjects like business intelligence or data analytics or AI applications. And of course, it's always good to have some practical decision making exercises that might involve like some risk assessments and scenario planning. So that's our tips for you to develop like the analytical thinking.
The second one is resilience, flexibility, and agility. So what does that mean? It's just the capacity or the capability to adapt quickly to changes and remain productive in uncertain environments. Well, that will be the key to the future of job market because things are going to move really quickly. Like these tools just adapt so fast, and then will change so fast that we will need to be ready to basically be comfortable with being uncomfortable. As we can see already, the scenario with AI is changing every day. So you should expect that this will be the way things will actually happen in the near future. So it's really important to be comfortable with that. And so our tips are basically how can you be more resilient or prepare yourself for these times of constant change is to learn about time management and this is also a personal tip because I do that, is work on stress relief techniques. For example, mindfulness, meditation. It's really important because you can get overwhelmed really quickly by the rapidness of where things are changing really quickly. Also, develop the ability to be able to pivot quickly, in especially in your career, because you might need to your job might change functions from one day to the other, and then you will have to adapt and explore a different side or a different thing or a different part of the job that you're doing. And of course, stay open to remote work, hybrid work models, and cross-disciplinary roles. So we believe that at least in a near future, there will be you will do maybe you will have smaller roles in different companies in different scenarios, and that's kind of like a little bit we discussed about this gig economy as well before, so it taps a little bit into that.
Pidinto.
So,
Another thing that, for example, when you say like comfortable with being uncomfortable, it always reminds me of running or swimming. This kind of sports that make you improve every time that you do it. So running or swimming. So think about that too. So the third point is leadership and social influence. So strong interpersonal skills. So it's the ability to motivate teams and guide organizations through change. In a positive change. So basically, learning how to manage people with will be like a fundamental part of you in the job market in the future. So it's fundamental to learn how to communicate and to manage people. And how can you improve this and create these skills? We recommend you to enroll in some leadership training programs or mentorship. Improve your public speaking, negotiation, and persuasion skills, and take on leadership roles in small projects or even in volunteer work. Which helped me to gain a little bit of experience in the real world. I was volunteer for a couple of years, and then suddenly I was leading some groups. So that helped me a lot, and I really recommend people to do that.
yeah, and there's a lot. I think a lot of those skills as well. It's a lot of learn by doing as well, right? So especially like
Yeah,
you cannot. It's hard to learn how to manage people if you haven't been managing people. So try to put yourself into that position. And I think
yeah,
if you don't have that opportunity at the moment, at least in your company or in clients that you're working on, let's say, you can always take some volunteer work. I think that's a good idea because you
yeah.
can there's less expectations and you can test a lot and try a lot. So the fourth one, creative thinking. For me as a designer and creative myself, this is by far the most important one, is the capacity to generate innovative ideas, solve problems in unique ways, and think outside the box. So for this one in particular, I'd like to play a clip from John Cleese, you know, the famous British actor from Monty Python. He speaks about creativity because, on the contrary, as a lot of people say, this is not a talent or something that one has, but something that is actually inherently human. We're all equipped to be creative. You will only need to allow us to do so. But I will let him explain himself. So we're gonna play the part or the clip where he talks about the creativity. So check it out.
I've read a number of books on creativity, and they put in a lot of stuff like if you traveled more in your youth, you're likely to be more creative, which is very interesting, but it isn't useful. In a funny kind of way, it's remarkably simple. It's just that it's the opposite of what we were taught at school. It's extraordinary because children start very, very creatively. Put children together, they'll start playing, which is the key to creativity.
Folk, including me, more creative. What is more? A couple of years ago, I got very excited because a friend of mine who runs the psychology department at Sussex University, Brian Bates, showed me some research on creativity done at Berkeley in the 70s by a brilliant psychologist called Donald McKinnon, which seemed to confirm in the most impressively scientific way all the vague observations and intuitions that I'd had over the years. Creativity is not an ability that you either have or do not have. It is, for example, and this may surprise you, absolutely unrelated to IQ, provided you're intelligent above a certain minimal level, that is. But McKinnon showed in investigating scientists, architects, engineers, and writers that those regarded by their peers as most creative were in no way whatsoever different in IQ from their less creative colleagues. So in what way were they different? Well, McKinnon showed that the most creative had simply acquired a facility for getting themselves into a particular mood, a way of operating, which allowed their natural creativity to function. In fact, McKinnon described this particular facility as an ability to play. Indeed, he described the most creative when in this mood as being childlike. For they were able to play with ideas, to explore them, not for any immediate practical purpose, but just for enjoyment. Play for its own sake.
So, here are some of our tips on how to develop these skills. So, work on personal projects that combine technology and creativity, for example. You can have an AI-assisted design, or you can do some digital art on the side, or you can work with some content creation, for example. So having personal projects on the side of work, it really helps to unleash your creativity, right? Also, in the realms of AI, I would use some generative image AIs, because you can really brainstorm, and you can set an outcome. For example, I want to create an image like that, and then you try to ask it and try to achieve that result by using AI, right? And then also video. So a lot of those video tools, like Runaway, for example, that you can use to enhance your creative thinking. And of course, a bit more practical is to participate in brainstorm sessions, for example, whether at work or in a volunteer basis as well. Design thinking exercises is really important as well, and innovation challenges. So, but it's really, really important to unleash your creativity thinking.
So motivation and self-awareness. So a self-driven attitude towards work, like can help you like in focusing motivation and self-awareness, continuous learning and personal development. I think they are crucial things to make your work more challenging, and to feel motivated to continue. So our tips for you to develop these skills are: set clear goals and develop a roadmap for acquiring new skills. So I think it's better to do it like one after another, so you develop a skills for 30 days or 60 days, and then you can go to the next one.
Like having a
So build
schedule, right?
habits. Yeah, having a schedule, that's a good tip that I have seen in some videos, and I really agree with that. So build habits of self-reflection and feedback assessments to improve your performance. um, Another one is to maintain a growth mindset, accepting failure as part of learning. So that's, I think, is a crucial thing. Just, everyone makes mistakes. Just try not to repeat them and grow with them. So that's our tips.
Number 6, technological literacy. So what does that mean? So understanding and using digital tools, software, and emerging technologies effectively. So be curious, I guess, towards what is new out there. And then I know in the case of AI, it's very overwhelming because there's a lot of tools coming out every day. But it doesn't necessarily need to be related to AI, but just we have so many new devices out there, so just be curious to explore them and try to understand how they work. I know it seems like pretty basic, but especially in the world that we're living today, but tech is everywhere around us, and we really need to know how to use any technological tools, right? So tips on how to develop this: it's basic. Learn the basics of AI, for example, how automation in AI works. This in the case of AI, of course, but just in general, stay up to date on emerging tech trends, following industry reports of tech news, and try to experiment with low code and no code platforms, for example. There's a lot of them now. We can put in the show notes a few of them, like there's Framer, um, Webflow, for example. There are low code, no code platforms, and there's also a bunch of them in the AI. They are powered by AI as well, like Cursor, V0, Lovable, for example. But we can put them all into the show notes.
So the next one is curiosity and lifelong learning. There's no other way to grow if you don't have a constant learning mindset, And we need to call it mindset because otherwise it's not a sustainable in the long term, So my advice is like experiment different things so you can cultivate this mindset of being curious and always forcing yourself to learn different things, and try different things. So for example, what you can do is to pursue some micro certifications or online courses. So read some industry researches, white papers and study cases regularly, or even having like following people that read them, So for example, if you have an Instagram or TikTok, just follow the right people, So you keep updated in the information. And enjoying, for example, professional communities can be another thing. Or attend to industry conferences. There are the tips that we give it to you.
Yeah, and then just to add up, you can use AI to help you with that learning, right? For example, you can use Notebook LM that we used it in the Christmas episode to just basically generate a podcast. If you don't want to read a paper, you can just upload that to Notebook LM and it's going to summarize it for you in a form of a
Yeah.
podcast, which is quite interesting. So I would definitely try that as well.
And for me, what keeps me curious and motivated is like follow a lot of people, especially talking about AI because we have a podcast. So I like to keep it updated and to see what's going, so it's really good to keep updated, just following the right people.
So, number 8, empathy and active listening. So, the ability to understand different perspectives, collaborate effectively, and improve teamwork. This is super important, especially in a globalized world where we often work with multiple cultures and diverse groups of people. And I think one of the, piggyback into what Matheus just said in terms of following people, I think Simon Sinek is a person of interest that you should follow because I think he has a lot of interesting things and reflections about world culture and leadership that is worth checking it out. So we want to play a clip where he talks about active listening and why it's really important. We're going to play that clip and then we're going to give you some advice on how you can actually actually improve your empathy and your active listening.
So listening is not the act of hearing the words spoken. It is the art of understanding the meaning behind those words. When people say you're not listening to me and we simply parrot back the words that they were said, congratulations, your ears work. That is the act of listening. But the art of listening is creating an environment in which the other person feels heard. Now, you notice what I said there. The other person, and I used an emotional word, feels, right? I don't want to know that you heard the words. I want to feel heard. I want to feel seen. I want to feel understood. And that is a learnable, practicable skill. So there are many parts of it. It's things like replacing judgment with curiosity, right? That's a hard thing to do. We're a pretty judgy group, right? To be curious why someone has a point of view. It's creating a safe space for someone to, as my friend Dia Khan calls it, empty the bucket. So even if we find what they're saying just reprehensible, right? You're never going to be able to actually have dialogue until at least one of the parties gets the opportunity to say everything without judgment. And as she calls it, emptying the bucket. And once somebody feels like they've completely said everything, then they're more apt to listen to you. But usually what we do is we defend, or we litigate, or we interrupt. We point out flaws in logic, which is just frustrating. And when you point out some flaws in somebody's logic, because we're all imperfect when we speak, and we all choose the wrong words at various times. And that's not what I meant. You know what I meant is what we have to say. Well, what if you know what you meant? Then why don't you say what you can see how this spirals. But it's things like when somebody says something, and there's really easy ways to do it. Things like, go on, tell me more. What else? And they keep talking. And you go quiet, they fill the space. And tell me more. Go on. And eventually, it's all out. And then there's a safe space for you to respond or and express yourself in a constructive way. But that's correct. We do not teach listening, and listening is the way to create to build trust with someone. You make someone feel heard, they'll trust you. It is the way to find common ground in opposition, in simple cases in business, but in more complicated cases in national politics or in global politics or in war. Why do William Ury, who wrote Getting to Yes, he talks about the same thing. He goes, we have talk shows, but we don't have listen shows. He says we have peace talks, but what we really need is peace listens. And he, who's been at the table at the highest levels of peace negotiations, he said people show up and start demanding what they want, and that's how the negotiations begin. Nobody starts by saying, so tell me why you came here. There's a great documentary that I recommend to learn this. It's called White Right, Meeting the Enemy by Dia Khan. In a nutshell, Dia is a Muslim woman living in the UK who was trolled by white supremacists to the point where the police got involved because her life was at risk. They told her stay away from open windows. That's how bad it got. The way Dia responded was by moving to the United States and going to meet the white supremacists. And she brought her cameras. I mean, you can see it all happen in this documentary. And basically, she gave them a safe space to feel heard. Now, that sounds mad. Like, why should she give them a safe space to feel heard? They should give her a safe space. Yeah, fine, good. It's never going to happen. Dia sits down with these white supremacists and she gives them a safe space to feel heard. It's extreme listening. And I say it's extreme because, they hate her, They don't just disagree with her. They want her off the planet. And she lets them empty their bucket, as she calls it. And then conversation begins. And because they feel heard, they start to trust her. And as they start to trust her, she becomes a friend. And then it creates this paradox where I'm supposed to hate this woman, but I trust her and consider her a friend. And what you see is one by one, these white supremacists, these diehard white supremacists, start dropping out of the movement because they can no longer reconcile their beliefs with reality. And if it can happen in this extreme environment, then it can happen anywhere. And all that is required for us to cross political divides or disagreements at work and things like that is one of the parties has to learn how to listen. It doesn't even require both parties to learn the skill. That's the amazing thing. And it is one of the most remarkable skills that anyone can learn, the power of listening. Yeah. So the documentary is a great extreme example of what it can do.
Of course, tips on how to develop this skill, right? Just basically taking a step back when you feel the urge to talk and wait for the other person to talk. Because very often in conversations, you want to say something, you want to contribute to that discussion, but then you're going to start interrupting that person. And that's terrible. It doesn't look good for you. It's not empathic. And then you're also not listening because you're only worried about what you can contribute and what you can actually bring it onto the table, right? I'm not saying you shouldn't do that, but you should basically take a step back and then listen. So the good way of practicing that is just basically take part in team collaboration, right? Because you're going to be surrounded by people, everybody's going to start talking and you can practice that. But you can find online some active listening exercises as well. And of course, cross-cultural communication training is really important because there's going to be different ways to communicate with different people from different cultures that might have an impact, and people might interpret things differently as well. So it's a very important skill, not just to survive AI, but in general, as for collaboration.
Yeah. Maybe create a podcast, then you can listen to other people. That might be one way.
Yeah, we do that all the time, right? Every time we talk to each other, we need to be mindful not to interrupt each other and respect your time to speak.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you just did now.
So the next one, yeah. We didn't respect that. So the next one is talent management. So the skill to recruit, train, and develop employees is like fundamental for to reach the business goals, on the companies. And I feel that it's a really important skill. Like how can you manage this talent to not just leave the company, for another opportunity, and how to help them to develop themselves. So I think it's a really important skill. So, and how can you develop that? So is learn how to identify and recruit people, especially the top talent people, manage diverse teams and retain employees. So take courses in human resources, um, coaching and mentoring. And I would add, create like some kind of interaction between the teams. For example, if you manage a team, just create like some interactive meetings, like, so if you do like, for example, some design thinking sessions where everyone should collaborate, this creates a really nice retain, because everyone participates, everyone feels that they are part of the team and part of the decision. So that's one way of like dealing with talent.
And the last one, customer-centric skills. What does that mean? It's just focus on understanding and addressing the needs of customers and clients. And this again, for designers and whoever owns a business, this is the most critical skills you can have, because you must understand your customers. If you understand their needs, the problems that they face, you can connect with them, and you're more likely to have a successful business, right? And this goes into all the levels. So how can you actually, you know, improve these skills? How you can develop that skill? So learn how to analyze consumer behavior and tailor services to meet market demand. So how can you identify those behaviors and tailor the services to actually meet that? Gain experience in user experience design, actually, marketing and sales strategy, because in user experience design, we basically look a lot into customer behaviors. There's another field called customer experience, which is also a variant or similar to. So I would also look into that. And you can find a lot of courses and a lot of YouTubers as well talking about this. So it shouldn't be easy. It shouldn't be hard to find. So the job marketing is evolving rapidly, and a balance of technical proficiency and human-centric skills will be essential. While AI and automation will reshape industries, those who can adapt, lead, create, and have some understanding of technology will be best positioned to be successful in this new environment, right? So we hope that these tips you're getting here today can help you secure a successful career moving forward towards this uncertain future we're all facing at the moment. So that's it for today. See you next week. If you enjoyed the show, please consider leaving a review on Apple Podcasts. It's free and helps us a lot. This way, it can help us also reach new listeners. Oh, and if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform to stay up to date on our latest episodes. If you have any questions for us, reach out to us at hello@humanAIXP.com or connect with us on Instagram. Thanks for listening. See you next week.